At that time, Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was rich. And he was seeking to see who Jesus was. But on account of the crowd, he could not, because he was small in stature. So he ran on ahead and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was about to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today. So he hurried and came down and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all grumbled. He has gone in to be the guest of a man who is a sinner. And Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, Behold, Lord, half of my goods I give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I restore it fourfold. And Jesus said to him, Today salvation has come to this house, since he also is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Lord Jesus Christ.
My dear brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, is a story of a teacher and a student to whom the teacher was trying to teach maths in the class. For our convenience, let us call this a student Johnny. So the teacher asked Johnny, rather told Johnny, Johnny is about 6 years old boy, so basic maths. So she asked the boy, Johnny, if I give you 2 mangoes and 2 mangoes, how many mangoes will you have? The boy thought for a while and replied, 5, madam. She said, no, listen to me again. And she wrote on the board again and said, if I give you 2 mangoes and 2 more, how many mangoes you will have? The boy again thought for a while and he said, 5. The teacher was confused and annoyed, wondering whether this boy could get maths at all, whether he doesn't have the capacity for maths. But then she wanted to change the tactics and she thought maybe he doesn't like mangoes. Let me try something else. And she said, Johnny, if I give you 2 strawberries and 2 more strawberries, how many strawberries you will have? 4, madam. She was very happy. But she wanted to make sure she got this answer right. And so she switched again and asked, now, Johnny, if I give you 2 mangoes and 2 mangoes, how many mangoes you will have? He thought for a while now and said, 5, madam. She was frustrated. But the problem here is that technically she is right. But practically the boy is right. Why? Because he had a mango in his bag, an extra mango, which the teacher was not aware. Simple boy, simple maths. If a teacher gives me 4 mangoes and asks me how many mangoes I have, he has to count that one in the bag as well. And he said 5. Practically, he was right. Technically, he was wrong. Technically, teacher was right. Practically, she was wrong because the boy was right. He had 5 mangoes now. Applying this story to the passage we have today, my dear friends, let us unravel what is exactly happening. Often in life, we may be technically right on many issues, but practically we may be wrong because we do not know the hidden mango in the lives of people. Take, for example, Zacchaeus. On a technical level, he was judged and he was right. Why? Because being a tax collector in the Roman Empire was a prestigious job, no doubt. But it was a job that was looked down upon by the Jewish community for the simple reason These tax collectors were collaborators in the Roman Empire. Palestine, Judea, Palestine at that time, in Jesus' time, was under Roman Empire, and they used to levy a tax on Jewish towns and cities, a yearly tax to be paid. The job of a chief tax collector is to pay that amount to the Roman Empire, and he would have the sole authority to levy whatever taxes he wanted from the citizens. A chief tax collector was not a wage worker. I mean, he's not paid by the month or by the day, but he is the sole proprietor of a business enterprise to whom there were others working under him, collecting taxes from towns, cities, farmlands, whatever the means of taxation it was there. He was hated by the people because he was a traitor to a Jewish cause, because he was collaborating with the Roman empires, because he was taxing people more than he should have been doing it. And because of these reasons, the tax collectors were not a very acceptable community. Maybe because of his richness. Yes, some envied his riches. Most of them hated. But definitely, everybody despised him because he was unclean in the sight of God. Although tax collectors were rich people, they were lonely people. People who lived a life of alienation because they were not accepted in the social structure of a Jewish community. So technically speaking, yes, Zacchaeus belongs to that category of people whom the general public despised because of his profession as a tax collector. Why? Because he is to tax more than he's supposed to be doing, and more than that, he was a collaborator with the Roman Empire. And that is how the Jewish people look at him, as an unclean person in the sight of God, a traitor to their own community, and a person to be despised with. And then we come to the story that we have here. What is the hidden mango that he had, which only Jesus could see it? And Jesus peels off all these externals of Zacchaeus, of his job, of his being a traitor, of his leading a lonely life, of him being despised by the entire community. And what is it that Jesus sees that others could not see? We have a glimpse of it in the gospel itself today, where Zacchaeus says, when he was accused, he has gone in to be the guest of a man who is a sinner. That is the tag. Because of the little background I gave you, he was tagged as a sinner, despised by all. And Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, "Behold, Lord, half of my goods I give to the poor." Now, in a Greek translation, my dear friends, this particular sentence is not a sentence, an action that is going to do. I will give half of my goods. But it is a continuous thing. It is an ongoing thing. In the original Greek, it is said, I have been giving half of my goods. See, it changes the narrative. If you just put in that sentence there rather than the one we have here, it changes the entire narrative. It changes the entire perspective. A sinner, a bad man, will not be so generous. Oh, he hasn't been that generous. But whereas in the gospel, in the original translation, the original Greek, the sentence reads, I have been giving half of my goods to the poor, which is more than any of us can say even today, my dear friends. And he is a rich man. Half of his goods will be beyond our imagination. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I restore it fourfold. According to Jewish tradition and custom, 20% has to be given. 10% to the temple tax and 10% to the government tax. But here we have a person who says, I've been giving 400-fold I'll give in case I have defrauded. Meaning, personally, as far as my knowledge goes, as far as my understanding goes, I have not defrauded anyone. I have not taxed heavy. I have not double taxed anyone. But by mistake, there has been a mistake made. And if people can find that fault, I am willing to pay 400 times more. It is possible, my dear friends, that one of his workers, or many of his workers, or some of his workers may be cheating him and cheating people. It is possible. Or, in a general sense, other chief tax collectors may be doing that. But as far as Zacchaeus is concerned, it is very clear he's not a bad man, he's not a sinner, as the society had condemned him. They had condemned him because of his profession. They had inferred that he is also a bad man. But whereas Jesus goes beyond that externals and looks at that hidden mango, and the glimpse of it, we get it here, that he has been charitable more than is asked for. Half of my goods I have been giving to the poor. Not I will give, but I have been giving to the poor. Okay, in spite of that, if somebody finds fault with me, and if I have by mistake made a mistake somewhere, I am willing to pay 400 times more. It is not an act of a sinner, my dear friends. It's not an act of a man who is a cheater, a man who is dishonest. And that is why his name, etymologically, Zacchaeus, means a good man, a righteous man. And that name reflects his own internal state, his nature, deep nature, as being a just man, as being a kind man, as being a man who is generous. And it is that Jesus recognizes. Whereas the entire society was blind to that mango that he had, that goodness that he had. And it is that brings Jesus and Zacchaeus close. Suddenly, Zacchaeus finds a person who understands him beyond these externals. And the joy that is expressed is palpable in his own interaction with Jesus. It has a lot of implications in our own personal life, my dear friends, in our spiritual journey. All of us have a hidden mango. Many people have. Most of us have that hidden mango. Whatever it is, it may be a pain, a loneliness, a frustration, hidden motives even in our good works, or sense of abandonment, lack of love or not being loved. Feelings that do not make us comfortable, maybe, or feelings that make us that we have been misunderstood, not understood, beyond the externals of success, popularity, talent, and stuff like that. Or the other way around, even though you don't have the external qualities of being popular, successful, talented, you may have a mother lode of integrity and goodness, which has not been appreciated and recognized by people. We judge by the externals, and by externals we judge people, condemn them and categorize them, much like the people in Zacchaeus' time condemned him because of his profession. Although beyond that, Jesus is a gem of a natured person with whom Jesus interacts. And it is our tendency often to judge people externally based on their profession or their nature or lack of it, either for good or for bad. That's why we have a phrase in English, don't judge the book by its cover, but often we do it, not recognizing there is a hidden apple. God, my dear friends, interacts with us at that deeper level. He knows everything. There's nothing that can be hidden from his sight. He knows the deepest thoughts of us all, and he knows the hidden motives of all of us. We neither can fool him, nor can we claim credit to whatever it is, because he is aware of every thought, every deed, and every action. And it is at that core that God interacts with us, either for repentance, if a repentance is required, or acceptance, if we have been misunderstood, misjudged, or wrongly accused of faults. God knows us through and through. This thought actually should give us a consolation if we are genuinely honest deep down in ourselves, that in spite of our misunderstandings, in spite of us not being appreciated or recognized, in the presence of God, I am appreciated, I am accepted, I am loved. And that is a beautiful thought to carry with us, especially those of us who are feeling low, who are feeling not loved, who are feeling not appreciated. Remember this: God knows you. Just as He encountered Zacchaeus, He encounters you at your deepest level. And it's a scary thought for people who have motives that are not in line with the Gospels. In spite of their external charitable and generous attitude, the motives that are so important, God knows even that. And today He gives a call to repentance to such people who put on that false self outside, but deep down in their heart, they are in need of that repentance. They are in need of that reconciliation, be it with the family members, be it with themselves in the first and primary place, and be it with others. Today is a moment, a time, a call is given to us because God knows us through and through. There is nothing that can be hidden from Him. May we take these two lessons. One, if there is a call that is given for repentance, let us accept it in all humility. And if by chance you have been feeling low, unloved, frustrated, and not appreciated, just carry this thought that just as Jesus met Zacchaeus at that deeper level, He is meeting you at that level. You don't need anyone else's appreciation, love, or acceptance. As long as God is with you and He is with you in your darkest moments of your life and in your lowest moments of your life, He knows you through and through. Lean on Him for strength and for your own support.